Section 41 of the Trademark Act provides that there is a requirement for a trademark to have sufficient distinctiveness to be able to distinguish the goods or services of the applicant from the goods or services of another trader. Now you might be wondering, why is there a requirement for trademarks to be distinctive? We have it because it just makes sense, as the primary function of a trademark is to provide a badge of origin of goods and services for consumers in the marketplace. Also, the policy reason for this requirement of distinctiveness is to avoid monopolization of signs that may be considered desirable to traders. In this video, I'll be covering the ways that a trademark can be considered to have met the criteria of distinctiveness. To be considered distinctive, a sign will need to be either inherently adapted to distinguish the goods or services, somewhat inherently adapted to distinguish the goods or services, or considered factually distinctive. For a sign to be considered inherently adapted to distinguish, the sign must satisfy the test for inherent distinctiveness set out by Lord Parker and Registrar of Trademarks and W&G Ducros Limited. This test requires consideration of the likelihood that others trading in similar goods or services would think of the sign and want to use it in connection with their goods or services. The more fanciful or arbitrary the sign is when compared to the class you are registering the trademark under, the more likely it is to be considered inherently distinctive. For example, if you wanted to trademark the term butter for a butter product, it would never be considered inherently distinctive, as other traders would likely wish to use the word in relation to their butter. However, a completely made-up word would likely be considered inherently distinctive, as the likelihood of other traders thinking of using such a term is very low. Note 1 of Section 41 of the Act also provides that terms that aren't able to be inherently distinctive include words that are descriptive of things such as the quality, intended purpose, geographical origin, or time of production of the goods. An example of this was in Medina Trading Proprietary Limited and Cantarella Bros Proprietary Limited, where the trademark registrations of the descriptive words gold and 5-star in Italian were cancelled, as they were descriptive terms that failed to distinguish the trader's coffee goods from other traders. For signs that are only somewhat inherently distinctive, the registrar will consider the extent that the sign is inherently adapted to distinguish the goods or services, as well as the intended use of the trademark and any other relevant circumstances. An example was the registration of the word fine form in relation to lingerie. While it is somewhat descriptive of the goods, it is not the most usual description of them, allowing the term to maintain a degree of inherent distinctiveness. When combined with the evidence of sales and promotion, the trademark was allowed to be registered. A sign can be considered factually distinctive if there is such extensive use of the sign prior to the application for registration that a strong connection has formed between an otherwise generic sign and the applicant's goods or services. In the 1998 case, Blount and Registrar of Trademarks, the applicant was able to register the descriptive term Oregon in relation to power tool accessories, as they were able to show that the products had been promoted under the name since the 1960s. Cadbury has also been able to show factual distinctiveness with their shade of purple, which I'm sure that you're familiar with. They did this by showing that they have used shades of purple on their packaging since the early 20th century. On the other hand, in Ocean Spray Cranberries Inc. and the Registrar of Trademarks, 2.5 years of sales and promotion information was not sufficient to show that the term Cranberry Classic was factually distinctive. So to summarize, for a sign to be considered distinctive, it must either be inherently adapted to distinguish the goods or services, somewhat inherently adapted to distinguish the goods or services, or used to such an extent that it is now factually distinctive. Thank you for watching. I hope that this video has helped you to understand how to acquire sufficient distinctiveness to register a trademark.